In this video, we'll look at some examples of how to solve equations using logarithms. In each of these examples, we're going to use the basic definition of the logarithm to rewrite logarithmic equations in exponential form. Let's look at this first example. We want to solve the equation the log base 3 of x equals 2. So again, we need to remember the definition of logarithm, which in this case says that when we say that the log base 3 of x equals 2, what we're really saying is that 3 to the 2 equals x. And once we realize that, well then all we're saying here is that x equals 9 and we're done. So the key to solving some of these simple equations is to simply rewrite the equation in exponential form, and very often that gets you your answer almost right away. Let's look at another example. Solve the equation the log base x of 16 equals 2. So once again we want to rewrite this in exponential form, and when we do that, we get x to the 2 equals 16. Well, now we've got still a little bit more work to do. So if x squared equals 16, then what does x equal? Well, we can take the square root of both sides. And normally what we do when we take the square root of both sides is we get a plus or minus, and that would tell us that x equals plus or minus 4. But let's pause a second and make sure that these really are the right answers. Does it make sense to think about the log base negative 4 of 16? Well, we might be able to come up with a way to make that make sense, but typically when we think about logarithms, we want to think of the base as always being greater than 1. So base of logarithms is usually bigger than 1. And only one of these answers that we got is actually greater than 1. So that means that we throw away the negative answer, and we get x equals 4 as our answer here. Let's do one more. We want to evaluate the expression log base 2 of 16. So at first this doesn't look like an equation, but we can think of this as being the equation the log base 2 of 16 equals x. After all, we want to know what does log base 2 of 16 equal, so giving it a name and calling it x doesn't cost us anything. And now this allows us to use our trick of rewriting this in exponential form. So we get 2 to the x equals 16. So now we have to think to ourselves, can we think of a number, a power, that we can raise 2 up to get the result of 16? And we might know that 16 is 2 to the 4th. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 16. And now our equation looks like 2 to the x equals 2 to the 4, and that means that x has to equal 4.